This is how good Friday Night SmackDown is these days. We're building to matches that don't even bloody exist yet. How meta is that? All of last night's show, the thread that ran through the tapestry that was last night's show, was setting up Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre at Survivor Series 2020. But as I'm stood here right now, in front of you, it's Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton at Survivor Series 2020, and Drew McIntyre's doing diddly squat. Yet SmackDown, we don't care about that. It's madness. But on a more serious note, I reckon this week's SmackDown was a bit of a step down on what we've seen over the past 3 or 4 weeks. Yes, Roman and Daddy Drew and Jey Uso, they were fantastic. Yes, Seth Rollins and Ronald Mysterio, they were great as well. But outside of that, it was a massive slice of meh. And let's speak about that Met now as we take a look at all the WTF moments from last night's SmackDown intro, man. Do your job, will you? Now, it's been about 10 whole years since I was on a sign inside of a WWE show, so thank you to Alex Haywood for getting me inside of the... I need to big myself up here. The Thunderdome! And yes, Alex, I agree with you too. Justice for Vega. Zelina, of course, not Savio. Now then, Roman Reigns, with your smug yet sexy face. Honestly, right, let's take a pause from WTF moments here. Imagine wasting yourself on professional wrestling if you look like that. Roman Reigns could do anything he wanted in this earth, looking like that, yet he chooses professional wrestling. That's a WTF moment all by itself now. But the big dog himself claimed that Jey Uso used to be the twin, which we didn't know which one was which before he came along, took him under his big doggy wing. Yes, dogs have wings these days, and now it's all changed for Jey Uso. But Roman Reigns, I don't want to be that guy. But I am going to be that guy. I could tell the Usos apart since day one-ish. And here's how I've done it since all the way back in 2010. It's clear for all to see that Jey Uso's face is more slender than Jimmy's. Jimmy's eyes, they are rounder than Jey's. It's quite simple. It's as simple as that, Roman. You bloody presumptuous sexy bastard, you. I don't know what's happened today. But then we have Roman Reigns proving that he is not, in fact, a big dog, but he is a hip-hop a hypocrite. A hippo, but also a hypocrite. What am I doing here? But here is what Roman Reigns said to prove that he is a massive hypocrite. He said, and when you think about Randy Orton, which I don't, he's the classic example of a man who you can respect for his accomplishments, but you don't respect the man himself. Very thoughtful and thought-provoking by Roman Reigns there, who has clearly been thinking about Randall Keith a hell of a lot. And then Daddy Drew McIntyre appeared, despite the fact he, of course, is a Monday Night Raw superstar, and despite the fact the wild card hasn't been seen for quite some time. But I guess with the hype around Survivor Series 2020, outside of The Undertaker's final farewell being pretty low, that's my feeling at least, I reckon you had to do something to G up the potential stuff that's going to happen at Survivor Series 2020. So what better way than building for a match that isn't yet announced? Go on, SmackDown! And of course, just in case you're wondering what the hell are you blabbing on about, Ross, let me tell you right now, Monday's Raw will see Daddy Drew McIntyre himself face off against Randy Orton for the WWE title. The winner of that match is not only WWE Champion, but will go on to Survivor Series 2020 to face bloody Roman Reigns. I nearly forgot his name there. I'm having a nightmare today. So the question has to be asked, did WWE just spoil the outcome of that Monday Night Raw match by having Daddy Drew build to a match that isn't happening yet? Maybe. And speaking of Daddy Drew, this was a very weird take from a supposed babyface. And that's because Daddy Drew McIntyre stood there and said right in Roman Reigns' face, Roman, you left the fans high and dry this year. You turned your back on the fans and you went home. And I cannot have been the only person thinking either Daddy Drew McIntyre or the creative boffin who wrote that absolute bollocks for Daddy Drew McIntyre, a man with underlying health issues such as Roman Reigns, Reigns going home in the midst of a global pandemic, remember, that is not turning his back on the fans and leaving the fans high and dry. I just can't believe that Daddy Drew turned heel on last night's SmackDown. Who the hell wrote that and didn't see the glaring issue with it? I can't believe he said it. But to make things even more strange, Roman Reigns said back to Drew McIntyre, Drew, everything you've just said there, it's absolutely 100% true. And of course, I fully understand that Roman Reigns is now a fully bona fide professional wrestling heel. So him standing there on last night's SmackDown and saying something like, hey, Daddy Drew, you're a bit wrong there, pal. Me going home, I went home because I didn't want to die and I wanted to protect the health and safety of my family. I understand that might have got Roman Reigns a little bit of a cheer, maybe even a golf clap. But we cannot glaze over the utter bollocks that came out of Drew McIntyre's mouth there. I still can't believe he said it. And then we had the shocking revelation and the massive WTF moment that was the face of WWE, Roman Reigns himself, admitting that he does not watch Monday Night Raw. And if that was the massive, lovely, sweaty chocolate cake of a statement from Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman himself, who of course is the former executive director of Monday Night Raw, he dropped the cherry on top of that massive, sweaty chocolate cake. You're not missing much, said Paul Heyman, and of course he is absolutely correct, as The Miz likes to say each and every Monday night these days, but still, I think it deserves a massive... So if we didn't realise this already when he said to Roman Reigns, Roman, you've turned your back on the Weens, you've turned the Weens against you, we learned that Daddy Drew McIntyre is a massive idiot for a second time during last night's SmackDown. 3 days before a massive WWE Championship match against Randall Keith, Daddy Drew McIntyre is on SmackDown begging Adam Pearce to make an unsanctioned match against Jey Uso, who is rather good at the professional wrestling these days. He's defeated Daniel Bryan, he's defeated Kevin Owens, he's on one hell of a roll. All while that is taking place, of course, Randall Keith is sat at home playing with his Viper. And of course, this isn't just a Daddy Drew McIntyre problem, it's an issue that is symptomatic of all noble baby faces in WWE. They never think things through, do they? And the utter disrespect shown to both Angie and to Aaliyah by Kevin. Dun 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 dun. And you've got to watch yourself, Kevin, because no doubt about it, Murphy sees stuff like that and he will send you round the twist for being a disrespectful dick. And then we've got to make the WTF moment where Ronald Mysterio himself said that Seth Rollins, despite all your dirty tricks and whatnot, and you trying to split up the Mysterio clan, you couldn't do it because you didn't bank on our bond being so strong. Yeah, you take that, Seth. And yes, I will concede that the Mysterio family are stood there in a fantastic 3-1 formation, just like any fantastic five-a-side football team would do, because they know what they're doing. It's a fantastic formation. But I can't but help remember the moment where Ronald Mysterio was like to Aaliyah, Aaliyah, no, I don't like that Buddy Murphy fella. You can't be his girlfriend, all right. But then Aaliyah says to Ronald Mysterio, hey Ronald, I love that Buddy Murphy despite the fact he tried to blind you and despite the fact you don't want me to love him. I'm a strong, independent woman, me. Nobody clipped that out by itself, by the way. I'm a strong, independent woman, me. And then she necked on with him. I remember that happening. Yeah, a really strong bond, that one, isn't it, Ronald? If you were just a fantastic father, rather than this maniacal, controlling dick who is not allowing sweet Elias Hart to have what sweet Elias Hart actually wants, and that's a little slice of the body. It would be a different story, wouldn't it? Yes, as we all know, Otis is lovely. Him sat there doing what he's doing, I think the kids would call it a mood for fat bastards like me. But I want to make a meme, so let's make a topical meme. Good, that, innit? Hey, that's how we all feel when we watch Otis whapping out his caterpillar on SmackDown each and every Friday night. Isn't that right now, lads? Isn't it? Isn't that right? Stiffies all over. We're coming! And then we learn that Otis is going to be trained by Chad Gable. And I know what you're saying initially. Ross, within the realms of storyline and kayfabe, Chad Gable is absolutely rubbish. But I'm here to say no. That was Shorty G. That's a completely different man. Chad Gable is absolutely fantastic. Chad Gable is an Olympian. Chad Gable single-handedly gave Jason Jordan a career back during their run as American Alpha in NXT, all the way back in 2015. Don't believe me? Go back and watch 2015 NXT. It's a thing that happened. Chad and Otis are good pals outside of the wrestling ring. Chad is very funny. Otis is very funny. It's a match made in heaven. But that pamphlet, there is issues with that pamphlet. Chad Gable is carrying what appears to be the severed head of Fandango while riding an eagle where his leg has gone straight through the back of the neck of the eagle. That is some terrible photoshopping by some boffin who works for WWE, and it's an issue that needs to be addressed. Does it? I don't think it does, but still do it. And I'm sure long-time viewers of these WTF moments will know by now I try to leave the botches out of these WTF moments. But sometimes botches are so big, the human error that is done by the humans that are WWE superstars, it simply cannot be ignored. And Ronald Mysterio ballsing up what would have been one hell of a moment as Seth Rollins was there quacking right in the face of Buddy Murphy, allowing Ronald to swoop in there for a mysterious 619. It would have been one hell of a moment, but Ronald didn't hook his top on properly and he fell through the ropes. And he ballsed up what was clearly the finish to the match, so they had to redo the spot again. As I say, sometimes botches, they're too big not to mention, and this was a bloody big botch. And of course, we've got to give a shout out to Mago for trying to cover for Ronald's mistake by saying that Seth Rollins moved the ropes, even though Seth Rollins was clearly looking the other way, and Seth Rollins simply could not have known that Ronald Mysterio was coming for the 619. He's a messiah, Maggle, not a magician.
Made a grave mistake, Corey.
And then Corey Graves called Murphy Mysterio, and that's a thing that happened. And to be honest with you, in this feud that has revolved around Mysterio and Murphy and the Messiah, it's a bit of a WTF moment. It took this long for something like that to happen. He's healed! It's a miracle! That's how it goes, doesn't it? As we all saw during that match between Ronald Mysterio and Seth Rollins on last night's SmackDown, Ronald had his eye patch on for the entire match, but the match finished. The eye patch is gone, and Ronald's eye is absolutely perfect. It's a perfect pupil. It's an incredible iris, and you've got to be asking yourself, why, Ronald, why? Why would you make your life twice as hard by wearing an eye patch when you clearly don't need to? Well, Murphy, you tried to blind me, dar, and now you want to shag me, sister, but I'll let you off. All's forgiven now. I tell you what, I wish I was as wholesome as a human being as Dominic Mysterio clearly is, because if I was him, and if I was watching Murphy try to worm his way to the family after what he did. Yes, I know that Murphy helped Ronald Mysterio defeat Seth Rollins on last night's SmackDown, but there's a hell of a lot of water under that bridge, and I wouldn't have forgiven Buddy Murphy if I was Dominic. So there's a WTF moment for you that just shows I'm an arsehole. I'm an arsehole. Be more like Dom. Dom's good. Don't be like me. Be like Dom. And I am just so shocked after what we saw transpire at Survivor Series 2019 involving Natalya that those in charge of SmackDown would even give her a chance of getting on the traditional 5-on-5 Survivor Series women's team. And if you don't know what's happened, go back and watch our Survivor Series reactions from Survivor Series 2019. Don't you forget about Keith and all that malarkey, just to see why. Oh, and also on top of that, I went back and looked at the history books, and Natalya hasn't won a single traditional 5-on-5 Survivor Series women's tag team matchup. She's 0-4. Why was she given the chance then? And then we saw Chelsea Green. Was she lost? And I only say that, of course, because she hasn't wrestled on TV since all the way back on May the 27th, the May the 27th edition of NXT. And that's just so weird. She's very talented, but WWE didn't use her for whatever reason. There must be a reason, but I'm thankful she didn't get used, to be honest with you, because Dude the Doodle, her lovely dog, it's become a constant on my Instagram feed. And quite frankly, I doubt there would have been as much Dude content if she was wrestling full time. So at least there was some silver dude-like lining on this horrible cloud that has been Chelsea Green's usage in WWE this year. And of course, just like I said in the news video this morning, everyone here at Cultaholic Wrestling sends their best wishes to Chelsea Green after she suffered more rotten luck. More rotten luck. First match in NXT, she suffers a broken left wrist. First match on SmackDown last night, she suffers a broken left wrist. That is just tragic. All the best to you, Chelsea. Bloody hell, how's your luck? Whoa! The train is pulling out the station once again. I think this cheaper microphone might have just died, and I'm very sorry to headphone users. But this is Tamina's first televised match since the October the 12th edition of Monday Night Raw, and that's a huge WTF moment. I don't care what you say. We can forget about main event Jey Uso, which is apparently his brand new nickname. It needs to be main event Tamina. Whoa! Does Jey Uso have a train? No. Now, I should see stuff like this coming more often, but I never do. I try to put too much faith in WWE, in giving the people what they want, and that is a bona fide push for Tamina that actually ends with a SmackDown Women's Championship reign, unlike it did earlier this fine year. And hear me out on this one, right? But during that match, that fatal four-way match on last night's SmackDown, Chelsea Green, she suffers the really horrible injury to her left wrist. She goes to the floor, and in that same sequence, Tamina also goes to the floor. Then Liv Morgan and Natalya, they do basically a singles match in the ring. It's a very competitive singles match. Both women getting plenty of moves in there, but then Liv Morgan hits a code breaker on Natalya. Natalya kicks out at 2. Liv Morgan then hits a... I can't believe this was a thing. Liv Morgan hits a code breaker on a relatively fresh Tamina. And Tamina's pinned 1, 2, 3. Natalya kicks out at... Natalya kicks out at 2, even though Natalya would have been a hell of a lot more tired than Tamina was, because Natalya had basically just wrestled a singles match, yet the fresher Tamina, she was booked to not kick out. How the does that make any sense? And so that was it for all the WTF moments, I think, from last night's SmackDown. Just in case you didn't see it this morning, join myself for a news video where we cover the latest on the mess that is the Zelina Vega situation after her release from WWE. We learn why The Undertaker does not want to wrestle more cinematic matches for WWE, and we cover the Chelsea Green injury as well. You've got to feel very sorry for Chelsea Green. Straight to hells, by the way. We had 2 go up this week, one with Carl Anderson, one with Rocky Romero. We've got one coming this week, I think, with Chris Denker of Denkops. Make sure you check that one out. And I don't think there's any more. But yes, a slightly worse SmackDown compared to the ones we have seen over the past 3 or 4 weeks, but I still think it's so fantastic. We've been so good on SmackDown for so long now. We've got so big for our Bertie Bollocks boots that we're booking matches, or booking 2 matches that don't even exist. We'll never see the likes of it again. I've been Ross Trudell from Cultaholic Wrestling, and I'll see you next time.